Okay, so the first thing I think we should talk about and discuss a little bit is COVID-19. Though it is so horrible and so many people have died and gotten sick and just it's been awful, I think it's a big mistake to focus just on the horrible parts of it because things get horrible and there's nothing we can do about them. But if we don't get treasure out of the horrible times, then we lost completely and God is not pleased. So I think that the first thing we need to talk about is for Christians. Okay. You guys notice that he shut down the churches too with everybody else. Okay. Nobody could do anything. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that this touched everybody. For the Christians, it's because he wants to show the people, his people, how he feels when you don't seek real relationship with him. For example, the fact that you guys had to split up from your families, quarantine and all that, and it hurt so bad, think of how God feels when you've been quarantined from him and you've self-quarantined through religious means, and we just want to come and shout and get happy at church and then do whatever we want the rest of the week. We don't seek him for anything. We don't seek his agenda. We don't want to obey him in hard things. We just want to have fun on Sunday. And that's how God feels when we do this. Okay. For the non-believer, it's about separation. The message is from God to the non-believer is that just how you had to separate from your family and stop seeing them and do everything alone and not have feasts and holidays with your family is exactly what's going to happen if you pass and die, essentially. If you pass on and you don't know Christ, you will be quarantined. Okay? It'll feel way worse. It'll be horrible. On the other hand, if you become a believer and get to know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, then you will experience something so wonderful, way more wonderful than hanging out with your family or being with friends and going to movies and theme parks or anything else. That is foolishness compared to what you will actually experience in this lifetime and afterwards if you get to know Christ. So the first step for the non-believer would be to become a Christian. Now, these are simple principles, and you could say, well, God, he made it happen. He made this happen. No, he allowed it to happen. He allowed it to happen, and God does allow hard things to happen, I've learned, to show us how he feels about something. It's a really selfish mentality to go through a hard thing and only think about how you feel about it, or even how the people you love feel about it. What about how God feels about it? What about when you go through a hard thing and maybe it's a parallel to something that he wants to change in your life so that you can help other people? And he's showing you his heart of how he feels of something. And the reason why it's so important is because there's souls on the line. There's bigger things on the line. There's commissions. There's beauty. He has so many missions to hand out and to do in this coming era that it's unbelievable. So he wants to get people's attention, and he will use it. Now, the thing about this is people think that, especially Christians, a lot of them talk about how Satan's agenda is everybody's dying. That's not the complete agenda of the enemy. The side agenda of the enemy is that he wants to create so much fear in everybody and so much pain and so much agony and distraction that we are so not focused on God's missions. On top of that, I've learned also that he wants the perspective to be wrong. In this case, in the pandemic, everything got shut down, even carnal things that really aren't really good for us. So when you finish that season, normally the cravings for these things that really we shouldn't be doing in the first place are so intense that we come out in full force, and also we have big problems because of that, which in turn stops us from having a relationship with God and becoming friends with Him. So I think that these are good points to remember about the pandemic, and a way to really think about it for yourself so that you can use the pandemic to actually carry your life forward with God, whether you need to get to know Him as a friend, like a lot of Christians need to do, or whether you need to get salvation, because there's a message for everybody in the pandemic. So those are the two things. I'll go over them one more time. The first thing for Christians is He is showing the Christians what it's like when we don't seek relationship with Him. That's what He's showing us. And He showed it through how we felt when we couldn't see our families and have holidays and we couldn't communicate like we should be communicating. Okay? For the non-believer, separation. The same thing where you couldn't see your family, that's how it's going to be not only on the earth, where you're separated from hearing God's voice and getting to know your Father and your Creator, but also after death, when you are permanently separated with no return to your Father and your family. So these are things to remember, and we will talk more about this as time goes on, but I wanted to give that to you guys. Now remember, we are building, okay? The point of this is not just to talk. The point of this is for you guys to get very in touch with God's heart on these matters for yourselves so that you can build, okay? And you can build relationship with Him. And then He has commissions so that you can be powerful in the earth and change lives for the better. That's what we're doing. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Jesus is amazing. Hail Jehovah.